Hey, I'm back, and I thought I'd do the second video in this Amp in the Room Tone series. If you didn't see the first one, basically what I'm doing is I'm comparing a closed mic version of a guitar tone to the Amp in the Room tone. So what I did in the other one was I compared a recording I made with an SM57 right up to the grill of my amp versus a recording I made using binaural microphones where I'm standing up in front of the amp. So I'll just go over it quickly so you can hear the difference. Here's the version with the SM57. Here's the same thing with binaural mics. Okay, so you can hear there's a big difference. And before we did this, we analyzed it using a multi-analyzer, and we found out there's slight differences in the spectrum, but the real difference is actually the stereo. So I'll show you the spectrum and then the stereo quickly. So you can see the red is the SM57, it's in mono. The blue is the binaural, and the stereo field is just spread everywhere. So let's try to simulate that. In the last video, I showed how I made an impulse response using a clap sound here. And so I analyzed that, and I tried to figure out, about how long it was. So I think in the room, it's about 100 milliseconds to 80 milliseconds decay time of the room I'm in. And so instead of just using an impulse response, we can do something, in my opinion, it's a little bit better. So we're going to use MTurboreverb. So let's open this up here. Maybe actually turn it on. There we go. And I set it to default. If you have this plugin, it's really good. You can just open it to default here. Make sure you're using the full version, MTurboreverb, not the light version or the LE version. And let's turn off L1 for now because we don't need that. We're going to look at the ERs, so the early reflections. So before we go into anything, let's look here at the bottom where it says Analyze IR file. So we're going to go in there, and the impulse response we made before is binaural room IR, I guess I named it. I'm going to leave everything else here at the default settings, binaural room IR. There we go. And you see everything changed, and this should be a good match for what I want. This should be the delays and the early reflections from that IR of my room. I probably need to go and adjust a few things like raise the volume, mess with the early and late, etc. But I actually did this beforehand, so I have something that will be somewhat close, I think. So I changed the EQ. I wanted a little bit more bottom end, so I used a resonant high-pass filter here. I had a little bump here to make it sound a little bit more like the the normal binaural mic recording. ER, it's the exact same as what I had before. You saw it. I didn't really do anything to that. I just raised the volume. And the LR, I use this convo noise. This is a new module they added. It's just basically a white noise impulse response. I have the early reflections going into the late reflections there, and I have it 70% early reflections, 30% late reflections, and it's about 50% wet dry. So let's hear it on here. Let me make sure I'm on SM57. You can hear it. Here we go. Let's play it. Oh, and I will say, you should probably listen to this with headphones because it'll be much clearer and you'll be able to hear the differences. But let me do it one more time and I'll turn it on and off so you can hear the difference. Now I'm going to switch back and forth between the binaural mic and the SM57 with the MTurboreverb on it. So, somewhat close. It seems like the binaural mics have a little bit more high end, so if I wanted to, I could go into here and maybe try to boost this a bit. I don't know, here. Or actually, use a shelf instead. So, there's all sorts of things I can do. I don't know how much I want to get into this and mess with it, but you can if you want to get it closer, if you think that'll help. And I might even want to take it and like increase, like I have it here 200 milliseconds. I can make that a little bit longer, or even maybe increase the pre-delay to like 10 or so. Increase this to, let's say, 35. So there's all sorts of things I can do to make this closer. I don't want to spend tons of time on that because we have other things to do. Because I imagine you're saying like, okay, that's pretty good, so I can take this now and I can use this if I'm playing with headphones on. So I don't know about you, but for me, like I have a young son, so I can't play late at night right now. I can't turn my monitors up, so I have to play on headphones or I have to play with my monitors down really low, and it doesn't sound good with a dry sound. So I'll show you something. I have S-Gear here. Let me play it dry. So I have everything off, no delay, no reverb. And I just have use this impulse, Celestian impulse, the one you can get for free. So let me turn on my guitar so you can hear this. Okay. So as you can hear, it's not sounding that great. So let's turn on MTurboreverb. So, although it's not as great as, being in front of your amp cranked up, at least I can live with that. Just having that little bit of, like, air or space really seems to open it up, and it takes it from being like a terrible playing experience to something that's at least tolerable. But I know you're thinking like, okay, well, if I'm using this as standalone for practice or something, I don't want to, open this. I have to open up all these plugins and everything. So let me show you a way you can take this and you can add it to an impulse response, so you don't need to do that. It'll be easy and you can save it as a preset. So let's go here. I have a small file you probably can't see here. This is the impulse response that I was using in S-Gear. Let me turn S-Gear off. If I take that and I apply this MTurboreverb preset to it, I can make my own impulse response and then import it. So all I have to do is do this, like that. I probably want, it's too long now, so I need to cut it down so I can actually use it in S-Gear, or you can use it in whatever impulse response loader or amp simulation software you want. From there, I take it and export it, and then I have the impulse response I want. Luckily for me, I already did that, so let's open up S-Gear. So this is, like I said, the original Celestian impulse response. And here's the one I made. So as you can hear, it has a lot more air to it. It almost sounds like it has a reverb on it already, but I'm not using any reverb or anything yet. But you can, if you want to, you can add more delay on this if I wanted to. So let me turn this on. And I can do the same thing with a reverb here if I want. Off. And then with the original impulse. So if you're listening to headphones, you can hear like that sounds way too close to me and it's kind of unpleasant. So that's one thing you can do, and I think that's useful, and it's much better, at least for me, because I hate playing with headphones on, and so that makes it at least somewhat tolerable. So that's it for today. If you have any questions about this or anything else you want me to talk about, leave it below. Give me a thumbs up if you like this, and subscribe if you haven't done that. But until next time, see you.